main objective of longitudinal tests are to capture change in the player's behavior, skill, perception, motivation, and to know where players drop off or which mechanics players didn't grab, or what skills they need to be learned. So throughout different days or different sessions, you capture this change.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Game UX Alchemists. It's the first episode of 2026. It's very nice to have you back, guys.
Yay.
How have you been? How was your holidays?
So far, so good. And holidays, as always, perfect. Family, relaxed, and a lot of parties.
Already missing Brazil.
Same. My holidays were great. Beach, caipirinha, connections. Now
Friends,
back to work. Yes.
Yeah. Out to the podcast.
Well, that's the good news because today we're speaking about something you guys
Brazil,
very
no.
familiar with. Not Brazil, unfortunately, but something you guys you guys deal with on a regular basis, which is longitudinal studies. So in this episode, I wanted to talk to you guys about how the study looks like, right? What's the benefits of it, and how we at Antidote conduct them. So other UX researchers or whoever's interested, might find it useful, or at least see how we can help them with theirs. So let's start as usual, like with a quite basic question, like what is a longitudinal study? Because especially for non-UX people like me, I had no idea what that means. I still to this day I don't really understand what that means. So it would be great if you guys can explain just what do we mean by that in UX sense.
Okay, yeah, we can start training. So, yeah, the longitudinal study, it's a playtest study that it takes more than 1 day to be completed. Normally in gaming, what we do is 2 or 3 days, but we can also do 1 week longitudinal, or even more. Sometimes it takes even more. And during these days, the user has to complete certain tasks or play certain hours. So there's the progression on what the player is doing, and also they are gaining more knowledge of the experience of the game, and their skills are improving, so you can get there some type of progression. So this is the basic analysis explanation. Yeah, Lucy.
Yes. So the main objective of longitudinal tests are to capture change in the player's behavior, skill, perception, motivation, and to know where players drop off or which mechanics players didn't grab, or what skills they need to be learned. So throughout different days or different sessions, you capture this change.
Interesting. So it's over multiple days, like you said. So not like first time user experience, where it's just first.
Exactly. It's not just one single session where they play. It's throughout different days or sessions according to the objectives of the research. And you can, of course, first of all, organize how many days, what things you want to to test that will change throughout the longitudinal test. And yeah, you can. We're going to talk about this later, right? But you can set up different surveys or diaries that players will complete after each day or each session.
Wow, Lucy's thinking, reading my mind. What I'm going to ask in the future.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I know. I got there and it's like, no, we're going to talk about this later. Well,
no,
I'm
it's
already
fine.
rolling.
Yeah, she was invested with the.
I was
with the text.
And Alex, why? So what would be the benefits of setting up this like studies over multiple days, for example? What kind of things can it reveal that other studies cannot?
The most important thing is to learn about the behavior of the player throughout the sessions. And to be able to monitor that, we need the longitudinal playtests.
And Vicky, I know that we do quite a bit of longitudinals at Antidote. For which type of games or what genres of games do longitudinals applies to usually?
Oh, that's actually a good question. It really depends on the game. I believe that it should be a game that can give players different type of, I don't know, difficulty levels or maybe different things to test over time. It doesn't really matter the gender. I think that what matters is something that you can see progression over time. For instance, if you want to test how people get engaged over time with the game, maybe it has to have different levels. It has to have different difficulty levels as well. I don't know. If it's repetitive, they might drop off because it's the same thing over and over again. So it has to be a game that have a lot of variety inside it, so that it has a purpose of testing it more than 2 or 3 days, or at least more than 3 or 4 hours. I think that's the important thing.
Yeah, I think more than variety, it's the you said the hours that they can play, because, for example, if we are talking games like League of Legends, Counter Strike, that it's always the same, you can use longitudinals to validate the retention or the engagement after 2, 3, 5, 7 days, 20 days, whatever, to see how the game the players engage with that. Because maybe yes, the first session it's perfect, but the second time it's so repetitive that players don't like to continue playing. And also, I think we have this other variant. It's also related with the variety that Vic was mentioning, that we could say like more like a walkthrough playtest, where a player has to complete the whole game. Maybe a game is 15 hours, so they have one week to complete it. And then we can see where are the points of the game that players have more issues, or what's it most boring or more engaging. So you can try to adapt or make edits on the final version of the game to make sure that you have a linearity on the difficulty and the engagement of the session.
Yeah, and also the game could be entertaining, but if you don't reward the player correctly, like if the rewards that they get after, for example, winning a match or maybe like completing a level, they are not really meaningless. What it's end up happening is that you lose retention because they don't feel like all the effort they put in really worth it. So what it starts happening if they don't get rewarded properly is that they start like not liking the game, felt less engaged. I mean, there could be a lot of like different reasons why a game in a longitudinal study lose retention. But yeah, the thing is like you need to test the game for a lot of hours or a lot of days. So you need to keep in mind that the players needs to be engaged on all those days and hours. So if there are some points that are not full of enough, retention is going to be lost.
And what is the end goal of this longitudinal studies? From what I understood, is it to gather like the retention, or what would you say is the main purpose of these?
I think that depends on the type of game that you're playing. As I was saying, if you have like this more competitive, that it's one game, one match after the other, it's more the retention and make sure that there's enough content and engagement to make sure that players continue playing. And other hand, we have this more narrative. Let's say The Witcher, for example, that you have many hours, and there in this case, it's to understand. Not only the engagement to longer duration, but also if there are any pain point during the progress. And also it helps you to validate how the knowledge is shown and taught to the player. Because as an example, we have seen players that have a very specific tutorial that shows everything. And 2 hours later, player doesn't know that they can use an arrow because they have spent 2 hours without using it. So you can also see this type of issues on the more narrative or with the history or more progression issues. At the end, it's more having to knowing what your game is and trying to make sure that you focus your goals on the correct direction.
That's interesting. And based on that, I wanted to ask you then a bit more technical questions now of For example, let's say a studio does want to make longitudinal to test out what you guys mentioned, retention or the gameplay. Uh, which elements do we need to bear in mind to make it effective? For example, Vicky mentioned that earlier that you need to make sure that it's engaging. But what would you say measures should be placed to make sure the longitudinal is like as effective as possible?
Yeah, I'm going to talk. Sorry. I think that longitudinal studies needs a lot of organization because you need to be sure that everyone is available for a few days or a few hours. So there is to be a great previous organization before running the playtest. You need to make sure everyone is available for a few days or a few hours, that they don't have any other distraction, work or studies or anything like related to, I don't know, personal stuff. So, and it's a little bit hard to coordinate a lot of people. And mostly when you have people from different parts of the world, sometimes you want to test people from US and also people from, I don't know, from UK, that they have different time zones. Maybe because you need to, I don't know, you want to test over time which country is more engaged with your game. I'm just like saying an example. So you need a lot of organization before, and also you need to craft the right people for the test. So you need to do previous survey, recruitment surveys. You need to make sure that people that are going to test are people that they have previous experience testing games for a long period of time. Yeah, I think organization in longitudinal studies plays a crucial job.
Interesting. And Lucy, you already mentioned on it. Like I think you mentioned something called diaries, but so and in terms of actual structure of how do you collect the feedback, or how would you structure it so you can gain maximum feedback from players?
Yes. So I think that first we need to be on the same page with the client as for which things evolve over time and which things we would like to test, as we previously mentioned, whether if it's motivation, whether if it's the learning curve. And then having that in mind, and then discussing the timing, the how often we are going to ask the players to complete, whether if they are diaries or whether if they are surveys, if it's after a 2-hour session or if it's a daily survey or if it's after a milestone. Perhaps the player reaches a certain point that we need them to complete a survey so that we know exactly what happened at that certain point, what they were thinking, what they were feeling, and that's those are the typical things we do at Antidote. So surveys, diaries, and then different final survey at the end that will, in retrospective, tell us how the experience went. Different from the daily ones that are more, let's say, more specific, and the service, the daily service, are structured in a way that can be compared throughout the study.
And also, this is not like mandatory, but sometimes we are also asked to do like post game interviews, like also apart from having surveys between the sessions or in between the sessions. I meant after the sessions as well. We can also do like interviews, like focus group. There could be different ways to gather feedback from the players. So that is not also like their studies or service. It could also be interviews. There are different ways we can gather feedback as well. I mean, the gameplays as well have a lot of like technical data that we can use for later reports, for instance. And there are some specific scenarios where you can do like facial feature tracking to see if they are like less engaged. You see the faces if they are like less compromised with the game, for instance, if you want to see like engagement retention. So there are a lot of ways you can basically get data that could be useful for a report of a longitudinal study.
And Alex, just for the audience context, I for some reason view Alex as our player guy, like for recruitment, and the expert in this field.
I'm cool with that.
The
And,
gamer guy.
Yeah, and because Vicky mentioned like about it's important to recruit right type of players. In your opinion, for this specific type of study, what should the studio be focused on in terms of like maybe the profiles or the demographics? Or I know you will say it depends on the game, but what's the strategy would you recommend?
In this case, it's more the type of players that match most of the percentage of who will play your game. Because normally, if you are starting or if you are doing an onboarding, you can be more flexible. Sometimes saying, understand, okay, maybe my prototype player it's perfect, but let me check if other similar profiles work. But with longitudinals, that you want to make sure that your main target will enjoy and will be engaged, because you want to make sure that your community will resonate with what you're doing.
Oh, I see. So I asked this question because I thought maybe there's like a special criteria you guys look for one, but I guess it's the same as others, right?
Yeah.
Needs to fit. Okay, I understand. Okay, another question that I had is you said to collect data depending on what, like daily or whatever after the session. Do you have a preference or like when it should be collected? Like, do you think there's certain points when you should ask for feedback in this type of study?
If I may, I will answer you with examples, real examples that some of us already know, or maybe are unknown. Yeah, there are two games that I will use. One it's more a narrative game, it's the Tomb Raider style or Uncharted, that it's more linear and you have like different levels and different parts. And then what we did, it's like once you finish one chapter or one episode or how you want to call it, we players had to answer one specific survey regarding that part. Also, if there were any final bosses, also there was a specific survey for the final boss. So we could check real time the feedback from the specific area. And at the end of the day, we would have a very short survey regarding the progression. Okay. Did you enjoy today? How does it compare from yesterday? What do you expect for tomorrow? So this way, we have a more specific feedback from areas and also a bit part of the progression. The most important here is that we could track how each level was evaluated, and we consider a progression. And maybe on the episode 3, it was rated very low, and that was a pain point for players. And on the other end, I had a recent test. It was a driving game, more like taxi simulator stuff. That there was no such. There were some chapters, but it was not as much as defined as the other. So there we had like one daily survey, and players were asked for a specific task they had completed during that day, because we didn't have like a specific milestone that we could track. In this case, there are two examples that if you have defined milestone, it's easy to track them. If you don't have, you might go with a wave or the flow of that the player is doing, because maybe they want to play 4 hours in a row, and then you know that they are engaged because they have done a very long session. That this also helps you understand what the feedback is or what are they doing. If you have some players that are playing long sessions and very continued, it's like, okay, let's check the feedback because maybe they are really engaged. And if you have some player that plays 30 minutes today, then tomorrow only 30 minutes, and you talk to them, yeah, well, I'm not really engaged, but they continue playing because they want to provide feedback. That's also important. It's having to understand also the timing and the freedom they have to play.
I want to ask more examples, but I had like a little side question. So you mentioned surveys in terms of as a feedback collection, but do you guys ever also check the recordings or do any sort of moderation to also compile the feedback?
There are many hours to be reviewed, because if players have to play 10 or 15 hours, and we talk about 10 players, it's 100 hours. Or
I was about to say, yes, a lot.
Here a tip. That's in Catalan. A tip that I found, I discovered from client. It's using specific words when players have an issue or there's something relevant. For example, in this driving test that and other tests that we have done, when I moderate them, and they are it's self-moderated and players record on their own when their sessions, they say banana when you are seeing something really interesting that you want me to check, or say pineapple if there's a bug, a crash, or something that it feels you that it's a stopper and you will drop playing at that moment. So in this case, I don't have to watch all the content. I just have to check for specific words for me to review that case.
And they did that?
That's
yeah,
a good tip.
Yeah.
they did it, and it really helps to understand, especially the bugs and stoppers. Many players reviews a lot of things that if I had to watch all the content, it would take hours. And it's a very more effective way to review it, especially with small teams, or if you want to have the feedback more.
Plus, it's good because they just say it while they are playing, right? They don't have to go
Exactly.
to a different document to write whatever they want to say about that or report the bug, right? So it's just right then and there.
Correct.
And it's also interesting for a client, maybe after seeing the survey results, if they see a player that has done like an interesting like feedback or commenting, for example, one of the surveys, then they can go check the gameplays and see, okay, let's see what happened in their progression, and then they focus on this player because they say something that made them think, okay, there's something here that we need to check and that we need to analyze. So in that case, you don't need to check all the videos because, as John said, that would take hours or days. But you can focus on maybe interesting comments or feedback that have been said on the surveys or on the interviews, and in that case you kind of focus like based on your goals and select which videos or which like video sections you want to check.
And just to finish off, I just wanted to ask for more examples, because for me that's the most interesting, right? When to hear the stories when you guys actually did real life projects that we can share. Costa already shared a couple. Do you guys have a, like, from your fresh memory?
Yes, I have. The latest one I did, we made, sorry, I was trying to think where to start. We did together the survey, I remember. So there were different points where the client needed information. And the setup was that they had to play for 9 hours in total in different sessions. They could do 2 sessions a day, but they had to do 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, and 1 hour at the end or at the beginning. And they had to complete a survey. It was the same survey throughout the test and one final survey at the end. And yeah, I didn't do the report, but we at Antidote, we are always in touch with the players, as we are on Discord. In case they have an issue, they report it right away. I remember each player had a different channel on Discord with the client and myself. And every time they had a problem or they wanted to report something, they could ping us there. And we were going right away to help them. And then we had, of course, we were controlling every day how the sessions were going through our platform, which is impressive how the longitudinal setup is on Antidote. It's so good now, so easy to understand. And yeah, that's my example of the latest longitudinal. It's so hard to say longitudinal. I did.
I have to admit that, as you were saying, Lucia, the new update of the longitudinal view of the platform, it's really useful to track all the individual sessions and progression.
It's
So
in order.
if you have a chance, check
it out.
the link.
Subscribe.
But yeah.
Which is actually it's another good question. Sorry, before I get to you and Alex and Vicky, how of course we use our platform, Antidote platform, to do all the research and deliver results.
Yes.
How would you guys use that platform? In this case, would it be to record and to deliver results?
I had it set up as a player. So I had all the players separately, and you could see each session of each player beneath the name, the username, right? So we could have all the sessions together of the same player. We can as well have by day, for example, right? Players who play session 1, all the sessions 1 or day 1 together. All the sessions for day 2 together. Same for day 3 or whatever. We can adjust the project according to the client's needs for a better viewing of the results.
Sorry to interrupt you, Len. And Lucy was talking about Discord and direct communication. And as you asked the wrong guy before, I will ask now the correct guy. Because Alex is the one in charge in lab longitudinals. So yeah, he also provides a lot of moderation and he can provide also some information.
Essentially, playtests on the lab are a little bit different as we have players here, and that also allows for some flexibility. For example, we have a live feed on our observation room where we are constantly seeing what all the players are doing. We can, of course, focus on one player if they are doing something unusual or if we want to pay extra attention. But that also allows us to, for example, if in day 1 many players find any issue with any specific mechanic, for example, we are still on time to modify the final survey and to put an additional question or two to, hey, what did you think about this mechanic? Did you have any issue? Where was the pain point here? Explain it to me. So yeah, I would say longitudinals help with that, can help you be more flexible and to kind of react to the gameplay you're seeing and to help improve your own results. As well as, yes, John said earlier, here on the lab, we usually had games that were heavy on the narrative side. And well, as any other narrative media, it has an introduction, it has a conflict, and then it has a finale. So it's important to check if players liked it, as if it was a movie, a book, and for that, it's important, for the player to have played most of the game or all the game. That's something that you cannot get with a first-time user experience, for example. And it's nice and it's interesting to see how players' opinion evolves as the narrative evolves, and to see them invested or where they stop being invested in the game, and to bring all that feedback to the company and say, hey, this needs to be more interesting, or players are really immersed in the story, as to give some examples.
Wow. After this, I want to come to the lab and test the game, and I don't have one. So if anyone needs help,
I want to go through.
message Alex, yeah.
We can provide you for a game, no worries.
Yeah.
We can make up, yes, a game and go to the lab.
For a longitudinal study to work, you need to give clear instructions and have a clear communication with the players, because they need to follow all the rules, and in most cases they need to do like in between surveys, or maybe they need to complete a challenge and give feedback and in order to get to the next one. So there is a lot of things that they need to be aware of. Also, as I said before, organization, time. They need to track the time they are playing. So for it to work, there is a lot of compromise that the players must have with the game that they are playing with. And yeah, I mean, if everything like really like is on point, I think that is going to be easier to track what the issues um, the game is having with, I don't know, retention, difficulty, and progression, or everything that is related to longitudinal studies. And yeah, I think that they are some of the key parts of a study that needs to be really clean, polished, and organized in order for it to go really well.
And I think on this note, we can wrap up our first episode of the year, guys.
Yay, first of many.
Yeah. Actually, Acosta had a good idea, call it season 2, episode 1, which that would be the title. So
I
I
like
like
it.
the idea.
I love
Oh,
it. I love
oh,
it.
But yeah, thank you for sharing like examples and how we do stuff at Antidote. In the next few episodes, I will be asking more about other types of studies that we do. So just we can educate and give any helpful tips to our audience. So you'll have to be back, guys, and I'll come
and
with more questions.
We
inside
will be back.
stories.
Yes. So hey guys, thank you for joining today. Thank you everyone
Yay.
for listening. So we'll see you in the next episode.
Yay.
Bye
See you.
bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Don't
Bye.
forget to like and subscribe.